I saw a video on Facebook. I didn't even know where this, because when PNM and them had a thing on Facebook, you had about 12 people watching and so on. But I saw this little clip of this thing, and I ain't gonna lie, I didn't know whether to laugh, to cry, to stoop, to cuss, or to choke. I was drinking orange juice and eating Doritos. Well, not really the real Doritos, the local version, you understand? But all you hold on, that's not the important thing. Watch, and if you're eating, don't eat. Watch this video of this PNM, some PNM round table with the black benchers. Black benchers, you know, men who have no rank, men who have no portfolio, men who have portfolio, and another man who pink walking all over his portfolio. A man who has nothing to do, say nothing, do nothing. Men who sit down there, not even a minister. Go hear what them talking and listen carefully to what they say, you know, because I think the whole cabinet must move from lower St. Anne's to mid St. Anne's and go up on the 3rd floor of St. Anne's Hospital. Listen to these mad people.
Notwithstanding their horrendous track record of thievery, pilferage, and making the economy like the treasury like an open sepulchre for all their friends who want Panama to walk in, to take, had, borrow, thief, and go. After all of that, are you saying to me they still get the 19 seats, and that is what you mean is different? Let me talk.
No, that's very well. The conversation I'm having is that we are held to a different standard, and we do not mind being held to that different standard. That is why we are 65 years. And what others can get away with, we cannot get away with, and we don't want to.
And this brings me back to This brings me back to my colleague's point. Don't lump us in with them. We are different.
The PNM Keith Scotland. Keith. The PNM is held to a higher standard. Really, Keithos? You're a lawyer, so let's debate Keithos. You can't get a portfolio. You have a dunce who stayed in law school twice as long as you, who's the attorney general above you. You are a non-ranking black bencher, Keithos, my brother Keith Scotland. So let me debate you. You put forward a hypothesis that the PNM is held to a higher standard, okay? What's this higher standard? What about the fake oil appeal matter, Keith Scotland? What about the appeal? Where's the appeal? Where's the ethics, the morality, the transparency? Senior counsel has said appeal the arbitration, appeal Keith Scotland. What's happening? 45 days gone, 50 days. What about that? What about it's the friend of the Prime Minister who admitted that the Prime Minister who is the head of the National Security Council and the head of Petrotrin and appoints the board of Petrotrin and puts the committee in charge of energy and energy affairs and appoints the Minister of Energy, that the Prime Minister called his friend who was accused or alleged to have done something wrong, and that's the highest standard. Keith Scotland, you're a man, a legal luminary, Keithos. What about the Bridgman's contract and the approval by your Prime Minister by himself when he lied to the Tobagonians and said it went through the rigors of cabinet? And then he came with a small pin in the Joint Select Committee and said, no, I was in Tobago, and on the Friday, over the phone, I approved it because the boats would have been lost. And then he went back for covering approval, and he approved crooked money, a company that should not have even qualified to bid. That's a high standard there, Keith Scotland. What about the Galleon's Passage? Ministers procuring. They were supposed to lease a vessel, and normal lease procurement corporate governance is a board, tender committee, advertisement, evaluation committee of public servants, then a cabinet note, cabinet F&GP and so on. None of that. The PNM goes and puts a ministerial committee of Shampa Kujo small pin, Colmimbat, who bought the Sue before, spent extra money to fix it, and it never sailed one day. $84 million lost. Put he and LaHunt on a committee to procure. They then buy $120 million Galleon's Passage. Is that a higher standard, Keith Scotland? Is that corporate governance best practice, Keith Scotland? What about Al Rental, an attorney general who's duncier than you, sitting in the cabinet, recusing himself and going to drink coffee, and the other cabinet colleagues approving the rental by the government of the attorney general's building and $38 million to outfit the attorney general building while he's standing up outside in the tight pants, tight shirt, and mascara on his eyelids? Keith Scotland, a higher standard? Ketos? What about all the Al recusals? What about the Small Pin family? What about Small Pin and Al Rawi recusing themselves 92 times from 200 meetings? What is that? That's a higher standard? Every recusal means that there's a conflict of interest. You can't even get in the cabinet, Mr. Blackbencher, Keith Scotland, to get any recusal. That's a higher standard? A higher standard that the Prime Minister puts a minister under him at the office of the Prime Minister, and when the entire Economic Development Board resigns, he appoints his Small Pin's father to head a committee to investigate and interpret and invite and discuss and meet with all potential investors to report to the office of his Prime Minister, where his son is a minister. That's a higher standard, Ketos. Please explain that higher standard. The whole world would love to know this higher standard of PNM corporate governance, because all the textbooks say keep the decision makers far away from the suppliers, but the PNM puts ministers to procure, makes the chain very slow. What about the vessels down in Australia? They went and buy 2 vessels just so, and the ministers went and procured, met with CEOs, took the bids, headed a committee, evaluated and approved. Is that the best corporate governance and the highest standard? What about your government that went in the Parliament and the Senate to gut the procurement legislation to make it useless? Only people who intend to thief would do that. You all talking about thieves, and you are held to a higher standard. Keith Scotland, you are not even held to any standard, because you in your private practice, you are a big shot lawyer, you did many cases that were groundbreaking. Now you are relegated to the cesspit of PNM fecal content. Keith Scotland, what higher standard, please, my Fatima brother? Come on, man, tell me, let's debate. You have a man who was in the office of the Attorney General, who was the lawyer of Malcolm Jones, that squandered billions of taxpayers' dollars. Your government comes in, he is in the office of the Attorney General. You withdraw and remove the case against Malcolm Jones as the government with 1 page of advice, after there had been, the case was ongoing, that the Privy Council of, you know what? Let me stop talking. Run that Privy Council, run that video, run this, Keith Scotland. Please tell me if this is a higher standard that the PNM that you are a member of is held to, this high standard, Keith Scotland. Run it.
Why did AG Faris Alwari pay $10.2 million to Vincent Nelson between 2018 and 2019? The question again is, why did Faris Alwari pay Vincent Nelson $10.2 million? Was this an incentive or bribe in exchange for something else? Furthermore, was this a botched plan for something much more sinister? The millionaire AG and the millionaire lawyer have some explaining to do.
But doesn't he go a bit further than that? I mean, isn't he saying this is all rather extraordinary? There was 2 pretty confident opinions from senior counsel that the case should be brought against Mr. Jones. It was. In September, there was a change of government. In October, Mr. Jones was appointed to the Standing Committee. Within days, there was a whisper in the papers that the case against him might be dropped. Within 10 days of that, Mr. Nelson is writing a very short opinion. And he's, after all, dealing with withdrawal of a $97 million claim, Mr. Rowe, saying that he thinks there's a reasonable likelihood of failure. In all those, and then it's withdrawn and discontinued, and all the costs have to be paid. Isn't that the basis for saying we must please see the basis upon which Mr. Nelson cast his pessimism, which led to discontinuance?
Well, my lord, it depends upon what one is concerned with. The way it's put by the appellant in his affidavit is, well, it's necessary to allay suspicions. But to put it bluntly, as we do put it bluntly in our case, bluntly the suspicion is that there's been some sort of political interference in all of this, such that for purely political reasons the new government has decided.
Yes, Keith Scotland, please present me an argument that the PNM is held to a higher standard. What was that, Keith Scotland? How come the case against Ken Julian, the czar of the PNM, was withdrawn with the $31 million he invested in bamboo networks from ETEC, when the former PNM Minister Christine Sardeo wrote to him as chairman of the board and said, do not invest. We've done due diligence and we find this company to be not worthy of investment. Ken Julian went ahead and the people's money was lost, and you all withdrew, your government withdrew the case from the PNM czar, Ken Julian. On what basis? What was the standard? Please tell me, Keith Scotland. Minister Dillon, a minister in the government of PNM, receives a multi-million-dollar gift of an apartment in Manhattan, and your prime minister says it was a gift? Explain that, please. What about Camille's cash? She was wearing an outfit just like what you wearing there. What about that? What about the declaration she signed? What about that high standard of propriety to not lie on a declaration? What about that? Where that reach? Yeah, you can tell me about that? How Marlene get charged and walking up and down the steps of the magistrate court? That's high standard that the PNM is held to. Please let us know. I would love to know. What about Andre Montai in the recent judgment? You analyze it. Hey, what's this camera blinking for? What that mean? Colms Construction. What about Colms Construction? He constructing thing all over the place. That must be the battery going in the camera. Good thing I noticed it there, boy. Douglar Politics. We work as a team. Plug in the jack, boy. Give it current. Yes, it's still, yeah, yes. What about Colms Construction Minister of Finance going into the parliament knowing full well that when the laws he passes as your government, he will benefit as a contractor of multi-dwelling abodes. What is that? A high standard of propriety? What this government is and conflicts or conflict of interest is synonymous. This is interesting, Keith Scotland. I want you to respond to each and every one of these, to show me the higher standard, please. Emailgate, your prime minister went in to a parliament and lied for an hour and 15 minutes and continues to lie on concocted, fabricated pieces of nonsense, Keith Scotland. And he's your prime minister, your leader, your siege. He is a total flipping liar. That's a high standard to just concoct. Board appointments and chairmanship, family, friends, all the money of the country. You can't even get to spend no money. Your constituents cannot even get garbage pickup because Noel Garcia, Newman George, A.A. Kwamena, Small Pin, Daddy Pin, and Brother Pin. I forget to talk about Brother Angus, Small Pin, Tiny Pin, Young. $3.81 billion of work from his government, the government that his brother swore in to be a part of, and just so they win tenders after being zero in September 2015 to hero under the PNM. What was that? What's that higher standard there, Mr. Blackbencher, Keith Scotland? The EBC head, an independent institution, and your government chooses and appoints the niece of a former sitting minister as the head of the EBC. That's high standard there, Keith Scotland. My goodness, that is fairness and propriety. That's like if you're having a World Cup final between Argentina and Brazil, and the match is being played in Brazil. You should have 4 officials from Brazil. The VAR should be a team of officials from Brazil, and the fourth official should be from Brazil also. That will be a fair match, Keith Scotland. That's a high standard of propriety, integrity, and accountability. Keith, shame on you, boy. You know your brother, I shame at you. Look where you reach in your old age, boy. 8 months, 6 all in Tobago, And for 8 months, the PNM has been carrying on in Tobago as if them win, them in control, them budgeting, them ignoring the other 6 members of the THA, them ignoring half of the population of Tobago and proceeding to move like dictators in Tobago. That's a higher standard than instructing the EBC to go and divide Tobago into 15 seats. The EBC is supposed to be an independent institution, a creature of the Constitution. They have a formula that they're supposed to do to divide up any part of Trinidad and Tobago into any way through their equation. They then tell the government and lay in Parliament their report and recommendation, not vice versa, Keith Scotland. So y'all reverse the process, warp the process, put the process in your favor, and that's a higher standard of fairness, propriety, transparency. Keith Scotland, yeah, notice I ain't bothered with Ethelbert. Ethelbert can't even go in your own pot. Ethelbert, I so shame for you. I'll never leave Ethelbert, yes? COVID lies, COVID chaos, COVID oppression, COVID corruption, and you talking about a higher level. Where the 23 billion gone? Why people can't get support? What's going on? What's going on with our public assets? Why did you gut the procurement legislation? And now, let me say something specific to you now, Keith Scotland, because I think you're losing it. I see a little article here, down in the corner of the Express. Ex-CEO of the sport company concludes case with the sport company. Nearly 4 years after leaving the sports company, which 4 years means he was the CEO under PNM government, with a PNM board, a PNM minister of cabinet, and a PNM prime minister. Former CEO Adam Monsorin has settled matters with his former employers, which mean with the PNM government. In 2017, Monsorin was one of 5 employees who were dismissed following a forensic audit. However, the former sport official took the matter to both the High Court and Industrial Court because of what he said was the need to protect his profession. Right, very good. However, in a press release late Saturday, Monsorin said the dismissal of 2nd November 2017 has been wholly withdrawn. So he had them in court. He was wronged. They fire him wrongfully. He's making his case in court, both the industrial and the High Court, against the PNM government. And just so, here, he, the same man who was wronged, withdraw the case. Interesting, eh? But here the interesting part, Keith Scotland. Monsorin was represented in the matter by attorneys Keith Scotland, Jacqueline Chan, and another one. Keith Scotland, one, please tell me that you took yourself, when you swore in and screened for the PNM and went into Port of Spain South and swore to be the member of Parliament, please tell me that you took yourself out of that case. Please also tell me, Keith Scotland, that you also advised your client, Mr. Monsorin, as you had now joined the government that he was suing, that he should remove himself from your chambers because you're a senior attorney in your chambers, one of the best, and that he should seek representation from another law firm. Did you recommend that to Monsorin? Because you would understand that one would suggest that there could be a conflict of interest if a client and an attorney fighting the government, but the client's attorney is in the government. So Keith Scotland, please explain to your boy. Please tell me what you did. Very interesting, because it's this higher standard. Everybody is thief, but not you PNM. Everybody else thief, but not PNM. Y'all are head to a higher standard. So please, Keith Scotland, explain this former CEO sport company settling the case and withdrawing it against the government, of which you are in the government now, and you are noted here as his attorney, one of his attorneys. Did you, one, remove yourself from the case? But that's not good enough. Did you also advise him for his best interest to go and seek legal counsel that was not conflicted Because your chambers, if you are in government, you're close to the government, you understand the concepts of bias, apparent bias, conflict of interest very well, because you're a brilliant attorney. You're not a good politician, because you just jump in a safe seat and let PNM abuse you and treat you like a black bencher and make you beg and lick and borrow. Okay, but I shame for you, because you're my boy. Shame. A shame. I'm glad my mother didn't live to see this Keith Scotland, but no big thing.